artist, and you are a liar.
But not a snitch.
Mr. Slade.
This is such a crock of shit.
Please watch your language, Mr. Slade. You are in the Barrett School, not a barracks. Mr. Sims, I will give you one final opportunity to speak up.
Mr. Sims doesn't want it. He doesn't need to be labeled. Still worthy of being a bad man. What the hell is that?
Super Flag Bros.
Super.
What is your motto here? Boys, inform on your classmates. Save your hide. Anything short of that, we're going to burn you at the stake? Well, gentlemen, when the shit hits the fan, some guys run and some guys stay. Here's Charlie facing the fire, and there's George hiding in Big Daddy's pocket.
Super Flag Bros.
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order. I show you out of order.
Division 6 Podcast.
You don't know what
Division
out of order is,
6
Mr. Trash.
Podcast.
I'd show you, but I'm too old. I'm too tired. I'm too fucking blind. If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place. Out of order. Who the hell do you think you're talking to?
These Delaries and Peas Delaries.
I've been around, you know. There was a time I could see, and I have seen boys like these, younger than these, their arms torn out, their legs ripped off. But there is nothing like the sight of an amputated spirit, baby. No prosthetics for that. You think you're merely sending this splendid foot soldier back home to Argonne with his tail between his legs, but I say you are executing.
Welcome everyone, you are listening to and perhaps watching Super Flag Bros. I am your host Peas Delaries, and I'm joined in studio in the Sportira cage with Deez Delaries. You can follow Deez at Dave's Republic.
Yeah.
Remember to hashtag FPF, so that way when we retweet you, you will appear on the website. And we are, of course, joined in studio with our producer, Mo Khan, the Slow Khan himself.
Mo Khan, who is using an iPad that's in a box. It's in the.
Yeah, he has no case, just in a box. It's not ghetto at all.
Not ghetto.
If there's a way to make an iPad ghetto, Mo Khan found it.
Explain it. 5 seconds.
I can't.
Okay, good.
Speaking of in the box, we also have the Eagle and Master Control. He is twisting our knobs and making us feel special in all the right ways. And remember, we are in Anjou at the Sportira cage, because if it's in the game, it's in the cage. So let's look into Divi this week, Deez. I want to say
let's look into Divi every week.
Every week, but specifically this week, because time travel is not yet possible. But I was looking at watching some Divi games this week, and one thing I will notice, I did notice.
What'd you notice?
Was that the intensity level in Division E games is insane.
Oh yeah,
it's absolutely crazy.
I feel like also the skill sets are like way different from last season.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're seeing it's interesting because there's a lot of difference from the top end to low end. So there's some teams really learning, as well as some more established players, guys trying different positions. But at the same time, I find every little mistake, everyone's freaking out like, "Hey, whose coverage was that?" Or every big play or a big catch.
That's also what a lot of new teams do, right? They freak out over small things. Like
that's true.
You know?
And then you'll walk over to the next field where there's Division A and B where like every play is expected to be made, and so no one makes a big deal on the nicest catch you've ever seen.
Oh, but there's still a lot of complaining in Division B.
Oh, there's complaining. I'm not saying complaining. I'm just saying it's a different vibe, and I kind of, for myself personally, I like the intensity, and you know what? I like that Division E is kind of that place where it feels like people want to feel like once a week they're living the NFL dream. You know,
Division E intense. Eagle, are these new mics? They look like new mics.
They are the same mics as last week, just on new mic stands.
Fantastic.
So the updated mics.
They look polished. Good job. A+.
Absolutely. Eagle himself doesn't look polished because I don't know what he's wearing. It looks like a relic from 1976. You clearly bought that at Value Village.
No, was that a hipster store? Next.
Speaking of hipsters, the Falcons, who may or may not be hipsters, beat Smoke and Axles 25-12 in this game. Falcons got off to a slow start, but they scored 18 points in the second half. What can you say about this game?
I think in general, like, we're seeing kind of what we thought we would see out of Falcons.
The Falcons are who we thought they were?
They nice. Are who they are. We thought they were. Dylan Garber so far having a pretty decent season. Just in general, didn't really have to rely too much on the on passing in general. It seemed like there's kind of like a game of a lot of rushes, an accumulation of about 100 yards rushing between both teams. So even more, about 160 yards. Wow,
That's intense.
That's really important. Really important.
Yeah, that's a big difference, and a lot of math being done there by these.
Food for thought. These guys from the Falcons
Yeah.
are former KHP Light players from last winter
True.
season, and one of the biggest issues was the quarterback play. But it appears they've had that figured out now with Garber at quarterback.
And for those listening, they were essentially a pretty decent team in a higher division. You know, coming into Division E might not have all the same pieces and whatnot, but still, like the attitude's the same. I'd imagine the play calling is pretty much the same.
And one thing that was good, even when they were KGP Light, was the level of athleticism. So I'm happy to see this group stay together. Happy to see them winning. So far, they're 2-0. Do you think that the Falcons can be a legitimate contender this early on?
Yeah, I think at this point too, like. They've kind of it's not their first rodeo, so they kind of know what kind of intensity to bring every week. They know what to match with the team's intensity. We were just talking about that, how like there's just this different level right now in this division where it's like people are scared to make mistakes, whereas you know sometimes a team that's much more experienced, they're able to kind of to get past any kind of issues and whatnot. I'm really not talking into the mic.
Not at all. You're basically like you have your head in front of the mic.
Amazing.
Almost. It's bizarre.
But I don't want to take anything away from Jason Rossi either, and his smoking axes.
Well, that's what I want to ask you, because for Smoking Axes, the Jason Rossi, who's an experienced quarterback, is struggling. He's thrown only 5 touchdowns and he's thrown 3 interceptions. What do you think the issue is here? Do you think it's just he's used to playing with his guys?
Yeah,
and these
probably.
guys are
But he
different,
still
or
has
do you
some
think
of
it's
his
a
guys, though.
talent level in general?
It could be a multitude of things. I think maybe it's a lack of familiarity, but you know, when you come up against a team like the Falcons that have a very good defense, it's tough to tell what exactly is the main issue. But whenever you're too reliant on a run, like it sort of shows like where you're at as a team. Like, you know, your guy, maybe your receivers aren't in the right positions at the right time. The rush is flustering you. It could be a couple of those things.
Just a little food for thought here. Of course, Jason Rossi has that.
More for thought.
Yeah, has a report with Scott Binns. Scott Binns has 3 TDs. The rest receiving core, 1 TD combined.
Damn.
And that's a roster of 10 guys.
Yeah, so there we go.
But that's the thing about Binns, though. Like, having covered him, pretty tricky guy to cover in general.
Yeah, Scotty's
hands.
faster than you think. He's
Very
got
good
good hands.
hands.
He's stronger than you think. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. The Los Guapos.
Los Guapos.
Clearly a team describing your Division E hosts.
Yeah.
They beat the Royalty 30-12. The Royalty have scored only 27 points in two games. Given the presence of the Sea Assassins players from higher divisions, as in Dan Lazara, Sean Florillo, do you think James Dandria will develop into an effective FPF passer this season, or will these offensive troubles continue?
No, I don't see them continuing. I think he's surrounded by the right guys, like being surrounded by a guy like Sakis or like Lazaro, like we were talking about, just in general, and even Terrence Dobson. Having those kind of players on your team make an incredible difference. So I think, like, and it's also it's really early in the season, and I hate how we do this always in terms of how we cover. Like,
It's
like,
almost like it's our job.
no, but I'm saying, like, we put a lot of stock into how these teams played in the first 2 games, and really, like, we see crazy progression throughout the season. You know, so
well, this is the fun part of the season, because we can say whatever we want, and no one's gonna remember. So, do you think this guy's gonna suck? Yes. Well, no one's gonna remember anyway. So just do it.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
It's a millennial joke. You don't get these
No,
things, you old
I'm
man.
way too
You
old
don't
for
get
this.
it.
Legally, you're fired. So, on the other hand, we've seen Patrick Maluth of Los Guapos. He's had, and I mean, it is Los Guapos, so let's just say it as it is. He's had some handsome performances.
My God.
Right?
Yeah.
Handsome.
But it's
handsome.
It's cool to see that they're able to get production in different spots, you know. And to me, like, you know, when I think about a complete team, like, you know, when you're playing a 44-minute game, like having like multiple targets, having multiple players in your team that are playmakers, it's incredible, because you don't have to lean on the same 2 guys every game, you know, regardless of what the coverage is. Or, anyways, I think it's to me they feel like they're the team to beat. The Falcons obviously would be the popular choice in that spot, but definitely Los Guapos, great name. Any team that starts with Los always gets A+ from me. They are pretty handsome.
You kind of lost yourself there.
Yeah.
Kind of get away from you.
The food for thought for Los Guapos.
More for thought.
More for thought.
Mo for thought. Their defense has yet to allow anyone to score 20-plus points. their defense has pilfered 6 balls, so
Okay.
6 INTs amongst the entire defensive crew.
Yeah, who do they play next? What's on next on the schedule?
They have TD and Beers, and TD and Beers have Young
Beers.
Allard, who had a fantastic game against Looney Goons last week. So if they're going to win this game, they got to stop Mr. Allard and hold that offense in check.
And they have the defense that has the potential to do that. So it'll be an interesting matchup to look forward to. Absolutely.
And in general, like their next upcoming games after that are pretty tough as well. So I think by week 5 we'll kind of have a better sense of where they are and with kind of a team they are as well. So
I also have a question about a gentleman by the name of Kevin Trufu. He's emerging as Los Guapos' main threat.
well experienced, I think, in lower division, right? In division. E?
No, actually, he's kind of new, kind of
Right.
coming out of nowhere. Do you see him being Los Guapos' main guy? And does he or does he not have the coolest name in Division E?
Yeah, no, definitely.
By far, right?
By far. There's not much competition in that specific respect, though. So,
I haven't done the research, but I'm going to assume you're right.
but I just it's cool. It's cool to see, like, once again, having working with multiple pieces on an offense. Like, you being the offensive guy, you know how it is. Sometimes you don't always want to have the main target or you don't want to have like a specific game plan aimed at one guy. They can definitely be the.
So do you think
involved.
they'd be better positioned to perhaps try and see what they can get out of Kevin, but seeing which other players they can develop into main threats?
I think you just go with it. I mean, like, once again, it's still week 2. If it, you got to ride the hot hand. I hope that's the right expression, because if not, that's not going to sound good.
Speaking of riding hands, Redmond beating Fuzzy Kittens, 25-19 in this
God
one.
awful pink jerseys. Like, and I get it. It's cool, great name, but the pink jerseys. I mean, I was blinded.
In a game between red and pink.
Yeah, red and
pink. We saw Redmond getting their second win. A team that's not scoring a ton of points, but
I know,
the defense is keeping them in games, and the offense is executing when it counts.
I felt like both teams left a lot of points on the board, though. Like, there were a lot of opportunities that didn't really work out. A couple of drives that ended like really abruptly, either an interception, a missed pass. But in general, I do see a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Like, the score is not really indicative of what these teams are. Probably still need to find they need to find like the hot hand that they want to ride. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair. The hot hand to ride again. For Redmond, the hot hand so far, the hot hand that's gotten a ride has been Angelo Murata. Do you feel as though he can be that guy?
He could, but I think for me, like, I think John Papa Dumitru, I think for him, like, he's kind of the director of their offense. Like, when I was watching him play, I saw a very confident quarterback, which is nice to see in Division E. I'm not quite sure about his stat man, John Papa Dumitru. What's his history?
He played with Park-X Streets.
Honestly,
one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah, and he looked like he was really confident. I felt like he was really avoiding the rush pretty well, and there was he had solid rush in his face like throughout the game. So I really want to see where that gets them.
So who do you see as the major players for the Fuzzy Kittens?
For Fuzzy Kittens, it's hard to tell, but. It's really hard to tell, but I think in general, like Junior Clarence Simon, I don't know. I find that he had a really good game, pretty solid. But this is also a team that didn't really rely on one target. They had 3 touchdowns from 3 different receivers. So, like, what I'm saying is, like, it's evenly spread throughout their offense. So
absolutely. I would just hand a note by our producer Slow Khan that says "Sweewee." I'm not sure what that means.
Sweewee.
So I'll take a moment to take a break. I have noticed you brought some paper, so thanks for making this the greenest podcast of all. When we come back, we'll take a look at Conference B and look at who some of the main players will be heading forward.
Calling the Audible has been brought to you by the English Montreal School Board's DEAL program. Distance education for all learners will allow you to obtain your high school diploma or prerequisites for CEGEP or vocational studies from the comfort of your own home. It's never too late to go back to school. Learn anywhere at your own pace and get your diploma. Call 514-788-5937 for information or visit www.distanted.ca for more details.
Welcome, everyone. You are back and listening to, and perhaps watching, Super Flag Bros. I am joined in studio with my flag bro at these Delaries.
At LeBron James.
Sorry, at Dave's Republic.
At LeBron James.
He is the white LeBron James. Actually, not at all.
Really
I
not.
am Peas Delaries. You can follow me at Peas FPF. We are live in the Sportera cage. Where remember, if it's in the game, it's in the cage. If you haven't got your
I
jerseys
hope
yet,
that really doesn't catch on.
I hope so too.
Is that like an EA the slogan or something?
It's
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
stole it completely,
EA Sports in the game.
but it's in the cage. See, because it's the cage.
EA, you now owe me money.
See what I did with the cage?
Yeah, man.
Speaking of owing us money,
We got it.
Sportera, if you haven't got your jerseys yet, week 2 has passed, picture week has passed, but remember, you can always take a picture because we all have smartphones. And of course, our producer, the lovely Mo Khan, with his beautiful, not quite masculine haircut. You can follow him at what is it, Mo? Is it
At MoCon19.
MoCon19?
Yes.
He's a good follow in general. He actually will fill your Twitter feed with lots of sports info and some soccer stuff.
At Monos. Hashtag Monos.
Who knows? And of course, if you'd like to tweet the show live, you can tweet it at EagleFPF. Eagle is our resident knob turner and technical director. Let's say technical person.
That's what it says on my LinkedIn, anyways.
There we go. It's made up, but we'll
Isn't
call
there a
it.
program that does what you do? There's got to be an application that could just do what he does.
But unfortunately, he's the only one who would know how it works.
All right.
So we still got to keep
Okay.
him
They had an
employed.
episode in The Simpsons. If you recall, Stampy, the elephant.
Okay.
When Bart wanted to Stampy the elephant, and the manager goes, "You see this machine over here? It's going to replace you two if you can't produce Stampy the elephant for Bart."
That's fair. That's apt analysis by me. One person found that funny. We broke down Conference A last week. Let's go down through Conference B. So I will mention a team and sort of like what I think the storyline is. Mo, if you've got any info to chime in, please feel free as well. Terry, feel free to smile in the background. Thank you for coming by. Blood Machines are led by Yannick Dostin, who's doing well in Division E. He's a good quarterback who's really finding his home in the lower divisions. What do you think about Blood Machines?
I'm gonna
as a team?
say generally, they seem to have a really fearsome defense. It's something really interesting about this team, and to me right now they're kind of my favorites. You know, at this point, like they have a very aggressive defense. They still have a lot to prove. They have a lot of tough games coming up as well. But I really foresee them like holding on to that lead as well.
Now, are blood machines that produce blood, consume blood, or
Right.
contain blood?
Maybe all three.
All three. I like it. Sorry.
Sorry, a little background history
Yeah.
on Blood Machines. The
Like in general, blood
elements-
machines, the
No.
actual blood machines. Okay, go ahead.
Some of these guys were part of the Flashes from Div 5 Winter, and we all know what happened. They kind of stank the joint out in the playoffs against.
So they produce blood.
It's a team that started off the season very strong and then kind of got sort of like
similar parallels right now. Fast start. We'll see what happens in week 10 and beyond.
Yeah, hopefully they keep it going. Los Guapos, a team we talked about earlier. We didn't mention, of course, that the two of the Guapos, Dylan Daou and Anton Saki, is on the team. Now, it's notable, of course, that Anton is not the quarterback of this team, but still, I think, a key component.
Still an exceptional
What do you
athlete.
think of Los Guapos?
He's an exceptional athlete in general, and I think like if you rely on a player like him, like just in general in terms of a knowledge standpoint, like there's a lot that they can do, a lot that they can actually accomplish, and in general, like they're gonna give the Blood Machines run for their money.
What do you think of Jean-Guy, not as a product, but as a product of the lower divisions in FPF with their unorthodox style of offense?
Hard for me to believe in them, and hard for me to believe in them right now. Kind of seen the same production with them throughout the seasons. I still want to see what Chartrand can do, but in a sense, like it's the same kind of.
There is no Johnny Football this year. It is Emile Lamy who's the quarterback.
Okay, but I thought it was Chartrand.
I don't know if he's gone for the whole season or if it's a temporary situation. Eagles got some info.
Does this mean they have a playbook now or something? Or
Well, the first two games for Lamy
That's a
this
really good
year.
point, actually. Yeah, do they have
4
a playbook?
TDs, 1 INT. He's been sacked 3 times, 17 to 36 in the pass completion ratio.
So similar kind of production. Team with a lot of athletes, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Royalty, James D'Andrea, they really haven't scored much. They seem to have a pretty good defense. What's your handle on this team?
But in general, yeah, they are a very skilled team, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to imagine that them of any team would have an issue scoring, right? But at this point, only 27 points in the first two games is not much.
Not enough to win games.
Definitely not
You need
enough.
to score 27 in a game to win.
In a game, at least 27, at least.
Paul the Santash Mustache could be contender for wide receiver of the year for Smash Bros. What do you see?
So far, it's like you said. Having a guy like that, having a guy like Santash, it's incredible in this kind of division. It can be definitely kind of like a handicap for them, like against other teams.
Speaking of handicap, how many hours have you logged playing Super Smash Bros. In your life?
I would say about 350 hours.
That's a little bit
That's
depressing.
not much. Witcher, maybe about 500.
Oh, and you just bought
Yeah,
it
I just
last
bought it,
week,
yeah.
so I don't know if the math adds up. I'm excited to see this team. It's a lot of the guys I know from Game Changers. A lot of really good guys. I'm excited to see Jonah Cohen at quarterback. I haven't had a chance to see this team in person yet. They got some pretty wicked orange jerseys.
Missed photo opportunity though. There should have been more Smash Brothers
I know
type stuff.
they should be smashing each other.
Hit me up. I'll Photoshop it onto the picture.
I like it.
Maybe they were smashed.
Yeah,
Perhaps that's what it means.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Sebastien Tardif has thrown a lot of interceptions the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Will he right the ship?
I don't know about that. It's kind of tough, like especially when you're kind of in that flow where the interceptions just come out, and who knows what it is. It can be a mix of receivers not responding to his plays. Maybe the offense isn't directed in the right direction, but it's really tough. And we always try to talk about this, how like you're taking like. You can't afford to give away the ball, and you can't afford to have turnovers in a 44-minute game. Like, it'll kill you.
That's fair. That's fair. Flight of the Conchords have been plagued by inconsistency. They're as inconsistent as they've had, team name changes so far.
They've been inconsistent, but they've scored a lot of points, though.
But you'd expect that. The
Right,
team's been
yeah.
around forever.
Yeah.
Etienne Gilman has been runner-up for quarterback of the year in Division 6 or E.
But
Let's say E.
It's I know,
Eagles
but
nodding.
but they do have a 1-1 record at this point, right? So it's like, I don't want
But
to
it looked
overreact
so
either.
good in the first week.
I
Like
know,
they're
but-
blowing out their opponent. Second week, they take a loss. It's hard for me to get a handle on them. And teams that have been around as long as they have don't typically struggle early.
Yeah.
So I find it a bizarre start for them.
I find in general week 2 and week 3 tend to be the weirdest weeks for me. I always find that it's like
Like in your personal life. like that's when you take
That's when you eat too
NyQuil during a day and you
eat way too much shrimp. Just
Yeah.
find yourself in a alleyway.
and then all you
syringe in your ass.
open your fridge the next week 3, and all you see is cocktail sauce.
But going back to them, right? Like I still want to see a little bit more out of them. It's like I get it. Like they're inconsistent right now, but it is the only game too. So and I think that at least offensively they're trending in the right direction. So
Just to elaborate on that, they're on pace to have 3 guys with 300 plus yards. If it's projected to be that in 10 weeks' time or in 6 weeks' time.
Monos.
Hashtag Monos. Speaking of hashtags, we have hashtag Baton. And for those old school ballers who used to play basketball out on the courts in Montreal, that's a reference to getting rejected when you go up for a layup.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's a real thing. But this is a throwback to an old school team in Green Lantern Corps from Division 5. Now we're seeing Max Josselin at quarterback. Terry Tam had a bit of trash talk for them when he walked in. He said he couldn't believe that Max Josselin was quarterback.
TT,
No
what you got?
idea why he's playing quarterback.
Well, no one knows why you played quarterback, Terry. So
Well, better than you.
anyone's better than
But
me.
what is it? Can I know what it is in this league? Why there's just so much hubris? You guys all think you can play quarterback. All of you, aside from Eagle, and I still think I can play.
But I
quarterback.
know I can.
Okay,
Prove it, I
okay.
You have to
But-
understand
I
that
have
Terry-
winning teams.
But just what happens is there's a switch
What
that
happened
comes
in the
on. You all
playoffs?
think I could be quarterback today.
See, the thing is, Terry.
We don't talk about the playoffs, Mo. We're talking about the regular season, okay?
As for Terry, I will say this: he has a mirror in his house where he looks very attractive and super muscular, and that's what he believes the rest of the world sees as well.
Yeah, he's got like abs drawn on him.
Yeah, he draws his own abs every
Yeah.
day. Vanessa, how are my abs looking today?
No, but that may be a conversation for another time. We're going to table it
Leave
for another
Vanessa
time.
out of this,
I would
okay?
love to figure out the grand formula as to how you guys all think you can play quarterback.
The formula is alcohol plus more alcohol equals quarterback. But anyway, so what's your breakdown of this team? Max Josselin being just one of the members of this team. There's a lot of familiar faces in
Right.
FPF. What do you think?
A lot of familiar faces, but for some reason it seems like their offense is a dud. There's just, and maybe it's like what TT was saying, like
Titty Tam.
yeah, it's just it really comes down sometimes to where you're at with a quarterback. If you don't have a consistent quarterback, or if you don't have familiarity in your offense, it can really come back to harm you. But I don't know. I think that familiarity is gonna help them out. They have a pretty decent defense, but only scoring 20 points, that's pretty awful. And even in 2 weeks, you got to do more, better than that.
Maybe it's something the team's got to work out in private. But as for the public, we have a mild public house. Lots of guys, not a lot of points. Not a lot of wins.
What can you tell me about these guys?
Well, it's a group of new guys finding themselves in the league. Honestly, I would say stick with it, because FPF is a league, as you and I know, when you first start in this league, there's a good chance you're getting a whooping.
Are you going to get a baton?
You might get baton, because honestly, it's a league that's been around a long time, and it's a league that attracts a lot of high level talent.
Yeah.
So honestly, you'll get better and better each week. And I want to see what this team looks like in week 10.
There's a lot of intricacies in FPF in general, and I think being a new team sometimes it's hard to understand a lot of those little gestures and things that you got to do, how you run your routes, how you properly play your defense, how aggressive you have to be, how sometimes not aggressive you have to be. There's just a balance, and I think that balance is it's hard for a team to. But they remind me of a team from last season. What were they called? They were they were really young team.
Which division?
That team.
Div E.
There was a bunch in the Div 6.
Flagrant fouls?
Not flagrant fouls. They were really new, kind of middle of the pack team. A lot of gingers.
There was a team with the ginger, like talking about last summer.
Weren't they called Gingers?
Yeah, I think they were called the Gingers, actually.
Are we allowed to say that? It is a late night podcast, so I think we could get away with it.
No, I legit think they were called Gingers.
I think they're called the Gingers.
Okay.
Just food for thought. Simon Gontier, the only experienced player on this roster for Mile Public House. In fact, he has played for Le Mr. Chat last winter, 2014, had 19 catches and 7 TDs. Other teams, Golden Eagles, Spartans, and the Dirty South. So he has FPF experience amongst the 35 guys on the roster.
Amongst the 96 players on that roster, yes. Absolutely. It's okay. Don't worry about it, guys. My roster, season after season, has 50 players on it by the end of the season. So, to the annoyance of Mokan. We have one last team. BBWC, Big Blue Wrecking Crew.
Right.
If you leave out one of the letters, it's a worse acronym. Sergio Sicoli.
A few letters, actually.
Yeah.
I don't get it yet, but I'll find out soon.
You'll get it. You'll get it. It'll hit you eventually. Sergio Sicoli, a friend of ours. Dude, you got to find your identity. You got to figure out what you are as a quarterback, what your team does well. I know it's tough. I know it's tough starting out a quarterback from personal experience.
He knows because he was your receiver.
You know what? He needs to find himself a Sergio. Right. Sergio was that guy for me who really got me out of jams a lot of times, who helped me look even better than I was.
That being said, I do feel like they do have a couple of winnable games coming up too. So once again, it's another team I want to revisit at week 5 and see where they're at, because I feel like maybe a couple more games will get them trending in the right direction. So I don't know. I want to see.
Sergio, we're watching you.
We're always watching.
Be warned. DZ, final thoughts.
What?
Final thoughts.
About what?
Life.
Trying really hard not to eat cheese, but I realize that my bowel movements are incredible.
Yeah, tapeworms are difficult to deal with. Mokan.
You have tapeworms?
No. No, I don't. What? No. Maybe.
This isn't the Div AB podcast, Mokan. Anything goes in Divi.
Yeah.
Speaking of anything goes, I don't know why we hired you, but any final thoughts for you?
Yes, I think Divi, seeing where it is right now, could there be an undefeated team by the time it's all said and done?
Wait, that was a question. That wasn't a statement. That was a question. I'm calling out on this one. Give us a thought, not a question.
I'm saying there could be.
So, all right, cool. I'm not sure what to take from that. Eagle, let the good people hear your voice.
My voice.
There we go. That's as creepy as it gets.
Venice Beach, baby.
So, I want to say, you said it was a lost opportunity for Smash Bros. My Thursday's lesson plan this week, there's a lost opportunity for TDs and beer. You looked way too sober in your team picture. Yeah. Guys, you got to step up your picture game for next season. Week 2, I'm looking out for it. I'm hoping by next season you get it figured out. Also, remember that it is Game of the Week this week in Division 6. If you haven't voted yet, you should vote.
When do people have to pay for the league?
What?
When do they have to pay?
You need to pay like soon if you haven't done it already.
This week, actually.
It's actually this week.
All
And
right.
now we have your picture, so
I owe
we're
you-
going to find you.
I think I owe you money. I owe you all money.
Absolutely. Speaking of owing us money, remember, we are at the Sportira Cage. They are an official sponsor and official supplier of FPF uniforms. If you haven't got a uniform yet, hook it up with Sportira. Deez, how you doing? Ready for another week of action?
Am I ready for another week? I'm actually healthy this week.
All right, let's
knee is not locked and ready to go, man.
let's do it. Remember, you can follow him at Dave's Republic.
At
You can
LeBron
follow
James.
Mo Khan at MoCon19. You can
Monos.
follow his career, but there aren't many highlights. You can also follow the Eagle and tweet the show live each week at Eagle FPF. That's the
Hashtag
one.
Venice Beach.
Hashtag which beach?
Venice Beach.
Venice Beach. I can't afford that. I can barely afford
But can
Hampton
we-
Beach supplies at Home Depot. That being said, everyone, have a great week. See you next week.